I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. Haitians have a place to turn in the U.S. after the earthquake, but how many of them are actually doing so?
They fear that after 18 months and the period for TPS is over, that they will then be immediately deported.
A timely talk about legal issues and moral issues.
We can't use mercy as an excuse for not confronting the evil that sexual abuse has caused.
And they're all over Brooklyn and Queens, and they came together for a special celebration. Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. Francesca Maxime has the night off. Well, the earthquake that hit Haiti in January struck Brooklyn as well, with thousands of Haitians here worried about friends and loved ones back home. Many here in New York also found themselves worried about their own future. Days after the earthquake, the Department of Homeland Security offered temporary protected status, or TPS, for Haitians living in the U.S. at the time of the disaster. That would prevent those here illegally from being deported to a country that could not begin to support them. But even now, 4 months after the earthquake, a large number of Haitians have not applied for TPS. Producer Ingrid Rojas set out to discover why and found a culture shaken by more than just an earthquake, but also rattled by uncertainty and fear.
The number of Haitians applying for temporary protected status is unexpectedly low, and officials with the Catholic Migration Office are concerned about this.
And we feel that the number's low, even though we're overwhelmed by the numbers at our offices.
In an effort to do more outreach, a staff attorney with the Catholic Migration Office presented key points in the application process to social workers of Catholic charities.
Well, we've been working for the last 2 months, reaching out to a number of different parishes and making presentations and also processing people at our office in Brooklyn. As it stands now, we've only processed 200 clients. Standardly, we believe that it's a very low number.
And it's not only low in Brooklyn. Nationwide, the government estimated that 100,000 applications would be filed, but to date, there have been half as many. In New York State, home to one of the largest Haitian immigrant communities, only 7,000 applications have been received. The reasons for the low turnout vary, but to those working with the Haitian community, there is one main reason.
What we see right now is fear and lack of understanding. I think they fear that because they're currently undocumented, they fear that after 18 months and the period for TPS is over, that they will then be immediately deported. However, what we hear is that historically, countries that had been granted TPS in the past, such as Honduras, that has been extended over and over, and now it's been going for 10 years. We do not expect that the situation in Haiti would improve in 18 months to the point that that it can now absorb the returning residents.
Another issue is money. It's $470 without, without an additional fee for an attorney or anything like that. That's just the government fee. That's a lot of money for people who especially don't even have work authorization.
And $470 is the individual application fee, making it costly for families in which more than one member is applying for TPS. A fee waiver is available with proof of low income, but that documentation is hard to come by for those working off the books. But many believe the benefits of TPS far outweigh the initial cost.
What are the benefits of TPS? And the benefits are that you can't be deported during that time. You're eligible for employment authorization. You're eligible for a travel document, and you're considered to be in lawful non-immigrant status during that time.
And with those benefits in mind, many Haitians like Valerie and her mom are applying for TPS. They asked us not to reveal their identities. Valerie is 21 and attending college at the City University of New York. She and her mom have been living illegally in Brooklyn for the last 10 years. And as soon as they heard about TPS being available, they applied.
When I found out about it, it felt like an open door. What made me decide to go for it is the ability to work. Not having your documentation in this country is very hard to find a job. And if I did find a job, it was paying off the book, and it was pretty hard because the paying was not, it it doesn't pay you minimum wage. It pays you less than minimum wage. And some people take advantage of you not having your documents.
Valerie already received a work permit and a social security number, which enables her to open a bank account and to have other advantages that she's looking forward to.
Now I filed for health insurance, so I'm just waiting to hear from them if I'm qualified or if I'm not. And I'm hoping to get some type of financial aid for school, because being undocumented, if you don't have any scholarships, you have to pay off pocket, and it's pretty expensive.
Valerie knows that even though TPS is not a path to citizenship, it is an opportunity that she cannot afford to pass up. And as the deadline for applying for TPS nears, officials hope more Haitians will take part.
Well, I really hope that the Haitians who do qualify for TPS do step forward, because it really is a rare opportunity for the undocumented with the TPS to have legal status.
We're encouraging all those that feel that they're eligible to call our office, ask questions, come down to our offices, and please call 718-236-3000.
Now, the deadline for applying for TPS is July 22nd. And for more information, you contact the Catholic Migration Office. We've actually posted more on how to get in contact with them at our blog. Just visit currentsny.net. Click on Riding the Wave. Well, when we come back, we'll have more news from Haiti along with the rest of the day's headlines, including a big question in Oklahoma. Should women have to undergo an ultrasound before they have an abortion? That and more when we return. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure. Coming up in just a bit, some vibrant groups in Brooklyn and Queens come together for a special celebration. But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. After a long battle, St. Vincent's Hospital will close its doors for good tomorrow. In a release posted on the hospital's website, St. Vincent says it will cease all operations at 8 o'clock on Friday morning. The hospital is also providing a list of emergency departments closest to St. Vincent's. Now, earlier in the day today, I spoke with New York Archbishop Timothy Dolan, who had this reaction.
It's very sad, and it's sad for you in Brooklyn too, because the Diocese of Brooklyn has been so heroic. You and the Sisters of Charity own that, and it's been Bishop DiMarzio's tried so hard, and the sisters, and all of us have, and I guess now we're just realistic, and we got to say, as much as we're crying, what we got to do is what I tried to say today is farm and strengthen and stay with our Catholic people who are they're the real bulwark of the healthcare network. If you walk around to our hospitals, I can't hardly get to the sick people because people are coming up saying, hey, Archbishop Dolan, I'm in such and such a parish, or I went to such and such a school. So many committed Catholic people among our healthcare workers. So we're still going to be present in it, aren't we? Even though we're going to miss places like St. Vincent's.
Archbishop Dolan there speaking today at a special mass in Manhattan honoring healthcare workers. Well, in other healthcare news, this time from Oklahoma, despite the governor's attempt to block it, a new law placing tighter restrictions on abortions goes into effect immediately. We get more now from Dave Jordan.
After 2 years of legal challenges and criticism from pro-choice activists, state lawmakers successfully passed their abortion measure and garnered enough support to override Governor Henry's veto.
Every Republican in the state Senate voted for it, but more importantly than that, there was Democrat support as well.
But a spokesman for Governor Henry had strong words against the measure he said crossed the line.
Governor Henry supports reasonable restrictions on abortion, but these bills went too far. They're unconstitutional, and the courts are going to throw them out.
Sun says Governor Henry takes issue with the mandated ultrasound every woman seeking an abortion must undergo. The doctor conducting the ultrasound must then show her the images and explain them in detail. There is no exemption for victims of rape and incest.
Victims of these horrific acts should not be forced to undergo a medical procedure against their will. It's unconscionable and it's unconstitutional.
But Senator Lamb says that is consistent with the language from a previous bill that was declared unconstitutional, even though it had bipartisan support from the legislature.
And there was not that exception at that time, and there's not that exception at this time.
Do you think they should be?
I'm going to let the legislation stand on its own.
One pro-choice group says that re-victimizes women.
For a woman who's been raped and that's why she's having the termination, or a woman who's been the victim of incest to have to undergo that and know no exemption made for that is even worse.
But Senator Lamb says this is what the public wants.
We have to do what we think is in the best interest of our constituents.
And young people are getting their own message out about abortion this week. Tuesday kicked off National Pro-Life T-Shirt Week, which runs through this coming Sunday. Young adults around the country are wearing T-shirts with pro-life messages on them. The project director says the goal is to get people to think of the baby in the womb as a person. Well, the U.S. Bishops Conference has announced it's given close to $3 million in grants to the church in Latin America. The money was raised through a special mass collection. In Haiti, funding will go toward providing temporary parish centers and classrooms. In related news, the Knights of Columbus began distributing wheelchairs to more than 1,000 earthquake victims there. At a time when immigration is making big news in the country, Pope Benedict is calling attention to the issue as well. The pontiff says immigrants should be given a firm hope that their rights be recognized. The Pope sent a letter to bishops meeting at an immigration conference in Spain. Benedict encouraged the bishops to continue their efforts to give attention to those who left their homeland or don't have a place to call home. In other news, the Pope says the new English translation of the Mass needs to be introduced with due sensitivity. Benedict met yesterday with English-speaking bishops from 5 continents. He says many Catholics will find it hard to adjust after the 40 years of the previous translation. We'll follow up on a story we brought you last year about a nun who was murdered at her home in New Mexico. A fund has been set up to honor Sister Marguerite Bartz. The money will be used to promote women religious communities in the U.S. Bartz was murdered during a robbery on Halloween night. A 19-year-old man was later charged. And finally, Susan Boyle, the overnight sensation from the TV show Britain's Got Talent, may realize her dream of meeting the Pope. The church in Scotland tells the Catholic news agency that it's open to the possibility of Boyle singing for Benedict when he visits the UK in September. Boyle has sold more than 10 million copies of her debut album since it was released last year. That's overnight sensation there. Well, stay tuned. There's much more currents coming up ahead. Just ahead, taking an honest look at the church and the law.
There are no right answers. There's just a lot of questions, a lot of thought-provoking ideas.
Welcome back. Well, the church and the law have been very much in the news lately, and that was a big topic of a panel discussion recently at St. Francis College here in Brooklyn. Members of the Catholic Lawyers Guild gathered for a wide-ranging discussion about scandal, crime, punishment, and mercy.
The church, in dealing with cases involving sexual abuse of minors, has actually moved away from a more psychiatric approach in favor more of a criminal justice approach, with the belief that the only way in which this can be effectively handled is by treating it as a crime.
This event we're doing in conjunction with St. Francis College. The idea is to bring together an association between the Catholic Lawyers Guild and the college to get people to think about various issues that are out there. Last year we had done an issue, stem cell research. And this year we decided to do the morality of crime and punishment.
I try to be a serious Catholic, and I'm trying to be a good criminal defense lawyer, and often confronted with the fact that they seem to be inconsistent activities. And in truth, they're not. They're very compatible. I was asked to come and talk about a Catholic or Christian perspective on criminal defense. Representing individuals that are charged with crimes, in my view, is something that Jesus provided a very good role model for. He repeatedly sided with those in society that other people thought were lowly or less or sinners.
I happen to have the experience over the last I brought up the question of the sexual abuse issue because it's a very, very difficult one. And it's one in which if we only look upon it as just a sickness or just a psychological problem, we don't really face the whole reality that it also is a crime as well too, and needs to be treated as such.
I think what a lot of Catholics feel is, of course, the behavior of the priest and those minority priests who committed abuse is inexcusable. Where a great many Catholics are frustrated and upset is there's a sense that the leadership of the church, the bishops or the cardinals, one, failed to deal with the problem as it was occurring, and now that we're finally dealing with it, are not taking responsibility.
We can't use mercy as an excuse for not confronting the evil that sexual abuse has caused.
As a Catholic and a Christian, my job is to, one, defend the accused. Two, most of what I do is seek mercy.
And all of our judgment should be tempered, I guess, by a spirit of goodwill. If you get theology or ideology mixed up, you could become an ideologue or a fanatic, and it could affect your abilities as a lawyer.
The whole issue, how to deal with the idea of crime and punishment, what's appropriate. There are no right answers. There's just a lot of questions, a lot of thought-provoking ideas.
Now, if you're curious, the very first Catholic Lawyers Guild began right here in our own backyard in the Archdiocese of New York back in 1928. They've since spread across the country. And as you heard there, the issues of justice and morality that these guilds continue to address could not be any timelier. Stay with us. We'll be right back. When we return, these groups are giving the church a firmer foundation.
We're the one who come out of the community, get the parishioners, get the new members of our community to come in and know more about Christ.
Last week, you'll recall, we took a close look at some of the many ecclesial movements that have taken root in Brooklyn. Well, this past weekend, those groups came together at St. James Cathedral, and our cameras were there.
Today, the ecclesial movements and the communities in our diocese are coming together to celebrate not only their contribution to the life of the Church of Brooklyn and Queens, but also to give thanks for the priests who serve them and serve the people of God. We'll begin by offering Mass. And of course, Mass is the most sublime prayer we have, where we give thanks to God, participating really through grace in the death and resurrection of Jesus. Once we've celebrated that, then the ecclesial movements have put together an extended time of prayer. And during it, there will be scripture readings, there'll be songs of praise. And the beautiful thing about it is that every single priest in our diocese, active, retired, are going to be named one by one to ask Almighty God for His blessings upon each and every one of them as individuals. So it will be a very powerful moment of grace.
Reverend Lucian Shallow. Reverend John Kino. Reverend Raymond Chappetto, Toledo Snows.
Reverend Santo Picchio.
Reverend Joseph Nico.
Reverend Matthew Diamond.
Reverend Ernesto Duran. Reverend Bruno Ciardiello. Reverend Edward Visage. Reverend Francis T. Shannon. Reverend Kevin J. O'Donoghue. Reverend Coleman Costello. Reverend Monsignor Thomas J. Flanagan. Reverend George A. Funstein. Reverend Monsignor George Deese. Reverend John A. Shane.
Let us pray to the Lord.
It is very, very important to pray for priests because we need the priests to be a service to the church. Without the sacraments, we cannot go on. And they're the only one. They are the one that can give us the sacrament.
We are an extension to the priests. They can only go but so far. So we're the one who come out of the community, get the parishioners, get the new members of our community to come in and know more about Christ.
An ecclesial movement or community, they focus in on one charism or one gift, which we all in some way share through our baptism. Each group has its own charism, but when you put it all together, it's the fullness of the life of the church. That's why it's important we come together to pray at least once a year. So it reminds everyone that we need each other to form really the fullness of the church.
Our human condition is that we suffer from amnesia, which we forget. And so it has to be always brought out again that yes, we need to support our priests. Yes, we have to pray for them. And yes, we have to give them that encouragement, especially in today's culture. The priests need to know that we're standing with them and that we're suffering through this time with them. we stand in unity with our priests.
And you can find out much more about ecclesial movements over on our blog. Just go to our website, it's currentsny.net, and click on Riding the Wave. Well, that's it for tonight. Now, coming up on tomorrow's show, how can you keep people interested in the church? Young people, that is. We'll have some answers as we head into the deep with Bishop DiMarzio. That and more coming up on tomorrow's show. But remember, in the meantime, we're always online. Currentsny.net is our website. You can also follow us on Twitter, become our fan on Facebook as well. Until next time, I'm Matt McClure. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night.